My favorite thing that was covered in sensations and perceptions were mirror neurons. Mirror neurons are a neuron that fires both when an animal acts and when the animal observes the same action performed by another. This meaning that the neuron will mirror the behavior of the other as though the observer were acting itself. The first evidence of mirror neurons were discovered in the early 1990s by Italian neurophysiologists Giacomo Rizzolatti and Vittorio Gavis. They were actually studying monkeys to try and determine what neurons were responsible for hand and mouth control. However, what they ended up discovering was that the neurons that responded when the monkey picked up a piece of food were the same neurons that lit up when the monkey was observing a human doing the same behavior. In humans, brain activity consistent with mirror neurons has been mainly found in the premotor cortex, the supplementary motor area, the primary somatosensory cortex, and the inferior parietal cortex. This diagram of the brain indicates which types of actions are processed by which regions of the brain. For example, turquoise is responsible for the movements directed toward objects. The purple region is responsible for reaching movements. The green area is responsible for movements not directed towards objects. The orange area of the brain is responsible for tool use. And lastly, the blue area of the brain is responsible for upper limb movements. Studying single neurons in the human brain is next to impossible, so the majority of our knowledge of mirror neurons is limited to our findings done with monkeys. However, experiments done with the functional magnetic resonance imaging, or fMRIs, have revealed that the inferior frontal cortex and superior parietal lobe are both active when someone performs an action, as well when someone sees someone performing an action. This leading to the suggestion that these brain regions contain mirror neurons and have so been defined as a human mirror neuron system. There have been many studies done since the first discovery of neurons that support the possibility of different functions. One of the more supportive functions is learning facilitation. Mirror neurons code the representation of the action, which would allow us to store that information for later use and would be activated when we perform that same action. It is essentially implicit learning or implicit training. A number of independent studies have also shown evidence that supports that mirror neurons are partly responsible for empathy. Experiments done by fMRIs, EEGs, and MEGs have shown that the anterior insula, the anterior cingulate cortex, and the inferior frontal cortex are active when people feel an emotion and when people see someone experiencing an emotion. There have also been studies that show that people who are more empathetic have stronger activations both in the mirror system for hand actions and the mirror system for emotions, giving more support to the theory that mirror neuron system is linked to empathy. Another highly supported theory of functions of mirror neurons include understanding others' intentions. Studies done with monkeys have supported this theory. The action-constrained mirror neurons in the inferior parietal lobe fired off when monkeys observed a grasping movement that was followed by an eating action, but not when it was followed by a placing action. Neuroscientists have claimed that this was evidence that the monkeys were able to predict the intentions of the person picking up and eating the apple. Another interesting but little-known fact about neurons is the relationship with autism. Some researchers believe that there is a link between people with autism and mirror neurons. Anatomical differences have been found in the mirror neuron-related brain areas in adults with autism spectrum disorders, more so compared to those adults without autism. The main differences were that these mirror neuron-related brain areas were often thinner in adults with autism. Even more interesting, the degree of thinning was directly correlated to the severity of autism. These results have led researchers to believe that defects in the mirror neuron system are partially responsible for autism and linked to weak social imitation and empathy skills, which are also common symptoms of autism. To conclude, mirror neurons are essential as they play a big role in our learning processes through mimicking, how we learn through others through imitation, and how we relate to others through empathy. This topic was my favorite SMP thing because I found it to be so unique, as these neurons hold the key to learn more about how we learn from the world around us every day. Thank you for listening.